Hello, I'm Robin. Welcome to Bookspin, and welcome to another monthly wrap-up. I'm going to kick things off by looking back at what I read in June 2025. So I started off the month by finishing off The Last Crusade by Poul Anderson. This is my first book that I've read by this author, and I thought it was a fun and entertaining read. And it's quite interesting because it blends quite a few subgenres of fiction, right? We've got alien invasion, we've got space opera, we've got military sci-fi, and historical fiction. And this book is set in medieval times, right? So we have this alien spaceship that turns up out of the blue in a medieval English town. The locals are very resilient, though. They successfully managed to resist the invaders. But if that wasn't remarkable enough, they also managed to take over their spaceship and somehow managed to go onto a space voyage. They get sort of set unwittingly on a sort of automated route back to a colony planet of the aliens, right? So that's the basic premise. At first I thought this was going to be primarily an alien invasion narrative in medieval England, but it turns out most of the action takes place not on Earth, but on this alien planet. And it's there that the Baron of this town decides that he wants to colonize this new world and incorporate it into the English realm. So it's a totally ridiculous premise, of course. This is not a book to take seriously. It's entertaining. It's quite funny. It's full of larger-than-life eccentric characters. So it's a fun, light read, but don't expect any kind of epic world-building or mind-bending alien races or anything like that. It's just a fun, light-hearted read. So after that, another book I finished earlier in the month was The Kafir Project by Lee Baveen. And this was an amazing read. This is a very exciting sci-fi thriller with a really interesting premise, right? It combines observational time travel, a kind of time viewer device, right, with religious and atheistic themes. And this was one of my top reads so far this year. I'm not going to talk a lot about it here, but I did post a review a few weeks back, so give that a watch if you'd like to know more. And then I moved on to The Door into Summer by Robert Heinlein. Now, this was a really entertaining time travel novel. It's about an engineer who is an inventor of automatons, right? Now, this book was written in the 1950s, okay, but I think the story is set in the 70s, or 1970, I think. Early on in the story, he gets swindled and cheated by both his wife and his business partner. And he feels thoroughly fed up, and so he decides to go into cryogenic sleep for 30 years as a means of walking away from his problems by escaping into the future. That's the basic premise. And I really enjoyed it. This was by far the easiest to read Heinlein novel that I've ever read. It's trimmed of all of the excess pontificating that so plagues many of his other more famous works like The Moon is a Harsh Mistress and Stranger in a Strange Land. Instead, what we get is quite a compelling and compact story with an interesting plot and a surprising amount of humour, which I wasn't really expecting. And another thing that I liked about this book is it features a cat, right? Who is quite an important character. The the protagonist takes this cat with him everywhere, right? He kind of treats him like his soulmate, and he places far more trust and faith in this cat than any human character. And one thing that really impressed me was the amount of character development or character building that Heinlein invested in this cat, and the kind of insight that he explores into feline behavior and feline psychology. And as a cat lover myself, that impressed me. So, all in all, this was a decent read. It's not perfect. It still feels quite dated in a number of ways. And it's got quite a lot of sort of casual sexism, which is quite prominent. But that's hardly surprising given that this is a Heinlein book and it's from the 50s. But it's an enjoyable and accessible read, far more so than the other two Heinlein books that I've read so far. So after that, I moved on to Roadside Picnic by Arkady and Boris Strugatsky. I finally got around to reading this book. It's a Russian sci-fi classic. I really enjoyed it. I think the concept of the zone was really fascinating. And it's a unique take on First Contact. So I reviewed this book just a few days ago. So have a look at that video if you'd like to know more. And then I moved on to Pandora's Star by Peter F. Hamilton. So I've finally started this massive space opera epic. So I am about, well, here's the book. I'm about 200 pages in so far. Page 202. Which in the scheme of things is still early on in this book. And especially so when you consider that this is just part one of a duology and each book is about 900 pages long. But even in those 200 pages that I've read, it's been a wild ride so far. There are so many characters, so many worlds, so much going on. I wouldn't really know where to start if I were to describe it here. But I am enjoying it. It does take a lot of time setting the scene. But the more I read, the more of an immersive reading experience it becomes. And I expect that will only become more so as I progress through the book. I hope so anyway, because I'm investing a huge amount of time into this. So I'll post a full review once I'm finally done with the first book, Pandora's Star. Just another 680 pages or so to go. Right, so those are the books that I've been reading this month. But besides reading, there are a couple of other sci-fi related things that I've enjoyed in June that I thought I'd mention. So first up, I got to meet the author Claire North, who came to visit my local SF group to take part in an interview. So it was a pleasure to meet her. She was really fascinating to talk to, and she's a great public speaker, very humorous, very insightful. I've only read one of her books before, which was the first 15 Lives of Harry August, but it's one of my all-time favourite time travel novels. So I got her to sign my copy. I'll show it to you. There it is. So that was fun, and I got to talk to her and learn a little bit about her new release, which I'm quite excited about. Is a new novel of hers called Slow Gods, which is a space opera, and it's due to come out sometime later this year. And then the other thing I'd like to mention is I took part in a video on Bart's channel, that's Bart's Bookspace, as part of his Why Sci-Fi series. He invited me on to his channel, and that was a lot of fun. We talked about a lot of things. We had an interesting chat about all things science fiction. It's about an hour long total. So give it a watch if you're interested. And subscribe to Bart's channel while you're at it, if you haven't already. It's a fantastic channel. I'll put a link to the video in the video description below. So that about does it for June. Let's take a look at July. Now, in terms of my TBR, basically my one focus for July is Pandora's Star. Of course, Peter F. Hamilton. Really, this is my only focus this month. It's going to take me quite a while to finish this massive tome. I might have an audiobook on the go on the side, possibly. Nothing too heavy. Probably some non-fiction. So I'm not sure what yet, but there is one audiobook that I'm looking into, that I'm considering, and it's called The Politically Incorrect Guide to Science Fiction and Fantasy by DJ Butler. So I might give that a try. It's got quite a clickbaity title, so I don't really know what to expect, but it could be interesting. I'll let you know. That aside, one tradition that I've sort of started for myself in these monthly wrap-ups is to spin the wheel on my TBR prompt picker. So I'm going to do that again. I'm going to do that now to help me decide what to read after Pandora's Star. I'm not entirely confident that I will even finish Pandora's Star this month. I may do. We'll see. But it doesn't really matter. My ultimate goal is to read both Pandora's Star and the second book, Judas Unchained, this summer. Right? And I know it's going to take up pretty much the whole summer, probably, or the rest of the summer. But I would still like to have one more book to read between these two books, between these huge tomes. So let's see what we can come up with the TBR prompt picker. All right, let's see what we get. A book with a boring cover. So this is an interesting category, isn't it? A book with a boring cover. I've picked out 3 of my books which I think fall into this category. Starting off with this book, Hot House by Brian Aldiss. This is the SF Book Club edition. So this is a classic sci-fi novel from the 60s. I think I'm going to check the publication date. 1962. And this science fiction book club edition, 1963. It's actually in very good condition, this hardback, but I think you'll agree that's quite a boring cover, and I don't particularly like that shade of yellow either. So it doesn't exactly inspire me, but this is quite a well-regarded book. It's considered to be a classic and probably one of Brian Aldiss's best-known works. I've not read anything by him yet, so this might be a good entry point. And it's a fairly short novel, which is what I'm looking for. I don't really want to read anything too long between these 2 Peter F. Hamilton epics, so that could be a good choice. The next 2 books I picked up are both modern books. So this one is Terrible Worlds Revolutions, 3 novellas by Adrian Tchaikovsky. So it's a trio of novellas. And I've read a few books by Adrian Tchaikovsky now, and I've really enjoyed everything I've read by him so far. And I think he's an accomplished novella writer. This cover, though, I think is pretty awful. I posted a picture of this book recently in a Discord discussion as an example of what I consider to be an extremely boring cover, and someone made the comment, "That's not a book cover, that's a gradient," and I couldn't agree more. Anyway, despite this, I'm sure the quality of the novellas is good. The novellas in here are, let me find them all. Ironclads is the first one, followed by Firewalkers, followed by Ogres. So, a bit of a longer book, this one, but that's another option. Finally, I've picked up this book, a short Alistair Reynolds book. I think this is actually a novella as well. So this is called Permafrost. And it does look really intriguing, actually. It's got an interesting tagline: fix the past, save the present, stop the future. So from what I've heard, this is a kind of post-apocalyptic time travel thriller. And it's by Alistair Reynolds. And I'm sure that I will enjoy this. I don't think this cover is as bad as the other two, but it is pretty boring. You know, I think the publishers could make a bit more of an effort. I mean, I look at this book and I just think, I look at that cover, it doesn't inspire me at all. But the author certainly inspires me. So this is a short one. This is one novella, 173 pages. This could be a good choice. So, what's it to be? Among these three books. First thing, I'm going to discount Agent Tchaikovsky, because this is a bit of a longer book. And I'm thinking of saving this book for November. I'm thinking of doing a theme in November, Novella November, where I can read these novellas then. Of course, this is also a novella, but you know what? Like, Alistair Reynolds is one of my favourite writers, but I've not read anything by him for ages, right? I've not read anything by him this year. So I'm going to put Hot House to one side, and I'm going to commit myself to Permafrost, a nice, quick read for when I finish Pandora's Star. So, yeah, I look forward to reading this book soon. And that is all for today. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon.